I want to take a few questions, and we'll break it down between on the dot. There's a couple of questions out there. We'll take some right now.
Very smart, but yes.
I've actually got a question, Mark. The slide you laid out with the 5 blocks there, diversity, scope, scale, etc. What about the engagement factor? How do you get the people excited enough to want to contribute to something? Is that part of the leadership factor?
So there's some really interesting things around engagement. And it goes into fundamentally abundance. So if you ask 5 people, it is deeply important that those 5 people engage. If you ask 1,000 people, it doesn't matter if you lose 500. As long as 500 people engage, you've got enough content to make it work. So the notion of engagement still works, but there are some different techniques that you would need to have to engage in this type of collective intelligent world. An example that I give is democracy. So really then the question for this is, are we going to do this as an American democracy or a Belgian democracy? In America, you can do whatever the hell you want in terms of voting. In Belgium, you get fined 500 euros if you don't vote. It's quite a different form of engagement, and that, if you like, was the sort of the strong arm motivation, go out and go vote. I think, therefore, if we look at collective intelligence looking for motivation, sometimes you will need to have some special motivation techniques because you want more people engaged and involved. And there are a variety of techniques around reward recognition, problem framing, and then sometimes you actually don't mind too much. Throw it out to a large number of people and see what happens. Question? Thanks. Other questions?
Yeah, I'm interested in how do you deal. I mean, it's easy to post a question out to a large crowd. How do you process what's coming back? Because I mean, it's good if you get 2 or 3 answers and they're all spot on. How about if you get 1,000 answers, and among all the garbage there are the 3 or 4 nuggets? How do you find those?
And this is actually the fundamental problem that this happens is that there is an emergent phenomenon taking place of massive volume. It's an emergent phenomenon. So when we run projects with the same client, the same topic over multiple years, topics that would have generated, let's say, 40 answers 18 months ago now generate 400. So we're now seeing a massive increase in volume. This means that we need to have new tools and techniques to handle the volume. We're doing a lot of work right now with text mining, text mapping, so we can come up with different methods of basically extracting content out of the masses. A lot of work with thematic reviewing based on word clouds. So pretty much the clouds are created based on the content putting in, and then people can almost sort of create their groups of ideas to look at based on what comes out. Some techniques, though, are really about choking off the volume, because you don't need 1,000 ideas. Quite often you're much better off. I mean, what is the ideal from a volume perspective? The ideal volume from an executive perspective is that I get 1 idea and it's brilliant. That would be fantastic. I mean, if I just had that, it would be great. Now, I can't guarantee that if I collect 1 idea, it's good. So we work on something, we published a white paper called the volume quality balance, which is pretty much how do you manage to have the right volume coming in to get the right quality coming out. And sometimes, for example, and this then goes into the techniques of the matter, sometimes what you might do is close your gathering early. You might have said, we have the system open, it'll be open until the end of the month. But if you've now got enough content that's good enough, stop it. Because then you can say this gives us more time to go execute. In some cases, there are ideas, there are topics where you will get masses of content. One of the techniques we have is really how do you choke off demand. One of the techniques we have is that is to force almost search. We did a project with Hewlett Packard for Earth Day. So this is collecting ideas for sustainability. What we wanted is that we didn't want to have 800 ideas on plastic cups. So we had the group create a document of the 25 most frequently submitted, suggested and reviewed ideas. We also then had our search built in. So pretty much as you're typing in your idea, the software is automatically searching if anybody else has submitted on similar things and topics. But the key thing is that when you filled out your form, there was a question at the end. Equivalent to, I promise that I have searched to make sure that my idea doesn't exist. The default was, no, I haven't. So they had to positively change that search option to say, yes, I have. And what that did, we could tell through the log data, that choked off a lot of lazy people that were basically going to submit in multiple ideas. Now, from a purist's perspective, a pure, like an idealistic innovator's perspective, this sounds heresy. You might be thinking I'm a terrible, horrible person because I'm stopping people submit ideas. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Time will tell. But the key thing though is that you have to think about these processes not about the front end but about the back end. You have to have something spit out the back end, and if you don't get the balance right, you kill the front end. Because all that happens is that you will annoy and frustrate your people making submissions, because all of a sudden the review process now takes 8 months instead of 1 month. And so getting that balance right is the critical thing. But yeah, it's one of those, it's a very important area.
Great. Let's take short questions and then we'll
I'll have a short answer as well.
All right, short.
Yes.
And then
It's short. Mark, thank you. How do you keep the collective masses motivated? Obviously, the quality of the idea is going to play a significant role in the end result. And you're not compensating these individuals, I'm assuming in the majority of the cases. So how do you attest to keep them motivated if, 10 years down the road, how do you continue people getting excited about this collaborative effort?
Well, and I think, not only that, the freaky thing is that 98% of everything that comes in here is crap. By definition, it's crap because you're only going to get a yield of about 2% good. So in fact, most people going in will have their stuff rejected. However, if you treat people nicely, it doesn't matter that much. I mean, we've done tests where after your idea has been reviewed, let's say it's been reviewed negatively, we used to have our default text being, thank you for your contribution. So they're like, attaboy, thanks, but some of our clients at Chevron then began to change that wording to be stored for potential future reuse. And they found that that wording significantly improved people's attitudes towards the system because then they felt, well, it's still going to be there. Another thing we found is using that power of networks. Remember network, and remember that thing, follow your peers. So there's going to be large groups of people that won't be motivated and engaged to go do. But if you can create the sense that there is a community, there are people active, you almost then force people to follow. And we've seen this very much with senior scientists and a lot of our pharmaceutical clients, that they originally did not want to participate, but as soon as they found out something was going on, they had to go and have a look to compare themselves. And then they were forced with a choice. They either went off the grid and nobody knew they existed, or they actually began to actively contribute. And by and large, the vast majority of them have been actively contributing. As to what happens in 10 years' time, I don't know. Remember, Facebook didn't exist 4 years ago. So right now there will be new tools and techniques. I think though, the overall demand for the sort of people to combine together in groups, communities, and masses is one of those things that is not going away. So I think then we will just have new ways and techniques.